Joining us to talk about the Buffalo Sabres is a guy who knows the team very, very well. He's back in Western New York, as you know, a writer for Inside Hockey, Josh Brewster. Good morning, Josh. How you been?
I'm doing good, Scotty. How you doing?
We're doing well, and, I mean, this is the stretch run that the Sabres fan base has been waiting for, Josh, and if any fan base, as we know, deserves to watch a few playoff games, and who knows, if they have home ice advantage, they might get more even than that, it's the Buffalo fan base. So give me a sense as to how you look at this stretch run and clearly how important and imperative it is for the Sabres to finish off this job.
Well, listen, things are going to get serious very quickly here, or they are, I should say. They've already come back. The stretch run will be the true test now that everybody is clamoring. What are the Sabres really made of? And I think that they've shown so well all season long. It's a true surprise. The fan base here is very energized. They're selling the building out constantly, and we'll dig into it. But this really is a tribute to Lindy because this is a club that within about a week or 10 days earlier in the season, amidst the GM firing, it just turned it around from being a club that played on the perimeter and passed up shots and overpassed to a club that goes very hard to the low slot and is also playing a very under-recognized strong defensive game right in front of their goaltenders. The emphasis on defense has been huge. So there's a lot of good stuff here, and if they're going to retain talent, they're going to have to make the postseason.
So, okay, what you talk about, it's not like they made a big trade. Lindy Ruff was the coach last year. So the effective style they started playing, everyone seems to think this is the best in-season general manager change, like Jarmo Kekalainen, whatever it may be. Like, it's the same cast. Like, how did the switch get flipped?
Well, it's interesting. I wonder if Lindy called some of the leadership in and asked guys like Zucker and Tuch and Thompson and Dahlin, et cetera. You wonder if he called them in and said, I need more from them. I don't know whether that happened, but it's such a radical change because you're really pulling your hair out watching them pass up shots and other guys are looking for other guys to make plays for them, and they're on the perimeter, and it's another dismal season. So it's got to be Lindy because they have completely changed their mindset. In my view, there's only two ways to play in the offensive zone. You're either a perimeter club or you're going to the low slot because that's where the goals are. And then, there's a million ways to get to those points, but you're one or the other. And they've been literally playing the right way for a long time now. And I think that a general manager who hasn't really made any big moves yet, but he comes in and he has no allegiance to any of these guys, that's got to have an impact.
Hey, Josh, we're going to be talking about every team and what their approach is going to be to the deadline coming up in the next week. And what do you think from Jarmo's perspective? Is he going to go shopping for? What's he looking for to upgrade this team to give it that chance to close the deal and make the playoffs in the East?
Well, we've talked about this on your show, but the one thing that plagued this club over a 14-year playoff drought is a lack of experience. They're always one of the youngest clubs in the league, and it has done them absolutely no good. Mm-hmm. Right now, they're getting a lot of contributions from veterans, and that's huge. I wonder, from my little perspective here, I wonder whether one veteran defenseman and one veteran forward would be a really good home stretch gift to the club. I've heard big names like Elias Pettersson, but at the same time, I'm actually just interested in hearing some names of guys who have played, doesn't have to be a star player, but have played maybe 600-700 games in the National Hockey League. I think if anything the Buffalo Sabres really could use as things get tougher, which they are right now, would be a little more experience, one on the blue line and one in the top nine.
I always talk trade deadline. One of the best acquisitions that doesn't cost you anything is an injured player coming back to full health and contributing. Boy, if Josh Norris is that guy this year, that would be a bonus.
Well, it would be. You've got a lot invested in this player, and I believe he's got 17 points in 20 games, which is awfully good. The problem is there's not, another, whatever it is, 37 games on top of that. I really hope for this guy's health because if you look, what they've done is they started Josh Doan, who, by the way, is a very important Kevin Adams acquisition. If you had to give up Tuch, he got a hell of a player in Doan. Doan is how they should be playing. But they moved Krebs up with Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch to get Peyton Krebs going, because there's a lot of activity with Peyton Krebs, but there's not a lot of production. So now he's getting some production. Josh Doan now is playing with Josh Norris. And if by some stroke of luck, Josh Norris can stay healthy, that could make the Sabres very deep through their top 9. And I mean, look, the guy produces. It's just obviously health is a question. But if that's where they want to play Josh Doan, I think they'll have a lot of depth to look forward to.
Josh Brewster talking Sabres hockey with us here on the NHL Morning Skate. Scott Laughlin here with Gord Stellick. You mentioned Tuch as well. That's a big question. It has been a question for quite some time, right, Josh? Is he coming? Is he going?
Yeah.
You get the sense that being a Western New York guy, that nobody enjoys being a Buffalo Sabre more than Alex does, and yet we know, he's looking for Kempe tape money. He's going to be looking for about $11 million per season for a guy who does so much for the team. Not only a veteran leader on the team, but the offensive prowess that he's got, the ability to kill penalties, to use that speed to his advantage. We're thinking like there's no way that you can deal him at this point. Isn't it just a case at this point, Josh, if you are not going to extend him before next week, that you ride it out, and in a worst case scenario, maybe he becomes an own rental. But at this point, you kind of need all hands on deck because it's playoffs or bust.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm going to guess that Kekalainen's got to know that he's just got to ride this. It is entirely, in my view, Tuch will get his money. Well, I don't know where he'll get it, but he'll get his money. This is all about what Alex Tuch thinks of the Buffalo Sabres. When Jarmo Kekalainen came in, he said, playoffs are not the only measuring stick of whether you're improving. And he's right, but you've had a problem. You couldn't keep Eichel, you couldn't keep Reinhart, and I could go down the line of who you couldn't keep. Well, now you've got Alex Tuch, and you have to keep him. Teams are searching for an identity. I just mentioned Josh Doan. Alex Tuch brings you what he brings you is what you want and what's been missing around here. So while Kekalainen's right, playoffs are not the only measuring stick, I have a feeling that playoffs to the players are going to be huge. And Alex Tuch is going to ask himself at some point, has this team really turned a corner? Because he has every reason to believe that it has. And why wouldn't he want to be a part of it? I think it's likely that he stays a Buffalo Sabre, but I really believe the ball is entirely in his court. I don't see any way that Kekalainen lets him go.
So, Owen Power, how is he in part of this turnaround? Because you've had some people thinking for a number 1 overall pick, he'd been a bust. Has he been caught up in the wave and bought into the program, contributing?
Yeah. No, I think he has. Here's the thing about Owen Power. I think that he may not be viewed as the most glorious number 1 overall pick, but that draft class. I don't know if it was the greatest draft class, but here's the thing I like about Power. He can move the puck very, very well. And if you've got a good pass out of the defensive zone and you handle the puck very well, and you usually make the right decision with the puck coming out of the zone, you're on my team. I want to say to Sabres fans, I hear a lot of anecdotally, I hear guys say, oh, he's not really a banger. Well, Nicholas Lidstrom wasn't a banger. And Scott Niedermayer didn't do a lot of banging. But, there's a lot of things a defenseman can bring to the table. I don't know if Power will ever be totally appreciated as a number 1 overall pick. But, boy, he's coming now to that 300-game plateau that I think other people like Tortorella have pointed to. And I think his game is really improved. I think he could be tighter in the defensive zone, but he does a lot of good things with that puck. And if you can get that puck out of the zone, you're a valuable guy. So I think he's well worth 20-something plus minutes a night.
Hey, Josh, coming into this season, too, there were a lot of question marks with regards to the Sabres goaltending, right? Like UPL wasn't ready to start the season because of injury and the whole bit, so he's working his way back. Alex Lyon, a journeyman goaltender, has proven that, at least in a short period with each stop he's been at, that he can get the job done. And they certainly, I would think you would concur, owe a lot to Alex Lyon for winning all those games earlier in the season to keep them afloat, for sure. And then they pick up Colton Ellis, and they've got some hopes for his potential. Still Devin Levi down there with the Amherst, too. So all of a sudden, it's a deep position. But how do you see this playing out here down the stretch? Would they want UPL to be the guy to pick it up, to take it and run with it? Would they lean on the experience of a guy like Alex Lyon? Would you see them kind of sharing duties the rest of the way? How do you see it playing out?
Well, I do see some sharing of duties. I'll start with this. At the beginning of the season, the first maybe 20 games, people scratching their heads saying, why are you carrying 3 goaltenders? Well, for a lot of reasons. But number one, I'm good with it. I had no problem with it for a period of time to wake the goaltending team up and say, guys, nothing here is guaranteed. So you don't like 3 goaltenders? Show me who's going to emerge. On the other hand, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen reminds me of a guy named Linus Ullmark. We had a good goaltender here in Linus Ullmark, but how would you know if he's never played any big games, never had a home stretch, never played in playoffs? So now you're going to find out what Luukkonen is really made of as the games get more and more serious. I think the goaltending in Buffalo has been solid. I don't think it's been a problem since day one. And I like the rotation. I think Luukkonen will be asked to carry the load, but I don't think Lindy will hesitate for a second to go with Lyon or Ellis. But I say, hats off to Luukkonen. It's entirely possible that the Sabres have a much better goaltender than they thought they did. And when the games get bigger, we'll really be able to look at Luukkonen, because if you look at Ullmark, and he went on to success with better clubs, or with a better club in Boston. Luukkonen could be that guy. Again, long story short, there's such an emphasis on defense now, and you have a real unrecognized talent in Mattias Samuelsson, amongst others. Their defense is playing really well. This was a team that gave away odd man rushes like Halloween candy, and they don't do it anymore.
Yeah, just one final hockey thought from you on Samuelsson, too. You mentioned him and his emergence. I think this season, Josh, has been remarkable. I know, and I got the sense in hearing the Sabres fan base speak so often, and obviously here in NHL Network Radio Land, we're very close to the flagship station, just a couple of short hours away. I got the sense that everybody got hung up on the term of his contract for Samuelsson, right? Like his AAV is not going to break the bank, but at the same time, well, why would you commit to this guy for that long? And sure enough, he has really taken that step and emerged this season, Josh.
Well, again, this is it's a little bit like he's a little older than Owen Power, but he's at that little over 300 game point, and it does remind you how long it takes to develop a defenseman. There's sometimes you get lucky and someone comes out of the gate. Cale Makar comes out of the gate for you, or Schaefer comes out of the gate. But this is not an easy position to play, and I got to give him hats off, because he's really he's taken a lot of shots. One other thing Lindy has done is he's invited the defense to go down low and play offense whenever they possibly can. And Samuelsson's taken charge. He's also a banger. The Sabres needed grit. They needed a guy who could bring the hammer. But this is a guy who's really emerged and really stepped into the money and decided that he was gonna step up and be something. And he's still a young guy. He's still only 26 years old, and I just think he's one of the most under-recognized guys in the league. And keep him a secret. He's their secret weapon on defense.
No doubt. And look, Josh, you've always been one of our favorites, whether it was in hosting for the Ducks on the radio side like you did for so many years, or coming back to Buffalo now and covering the Buffalo Sabres as well. You've been a favorite of all of ours, and I know you were a favorite of our guy, Jim Boomer Gordon. We got the news earlier this week that Boomer had passed at 55 after a long, lengthy, courageous battle with cancer, and I know you guys had a great relationship. He loved you. And I know you want to say a few words.
Yes, thank you. I was with the Ducks for 17 years, which in that business is an eternity, and I'm grateful to the Ducks. But one thing I always have to remember, and I reminded Boomer of this all the time. A year before I was hired by the Ducks, I was nowhere. I was developing a web radio show. No one knew what I was talking about, but he believed in me, and he put me on the air for a year before the Ducks hired me. And I think that the legitimacy that lent to me was an amazing gift. And then Boomer was one of my first guests. He was my most frequent guest. All you guys at Sirius have been gold to me. But I love Boom. I'm so sorry. You know, I lost my wife to this insidious cancer just last year. And Boom said, tell your wife she's not alone. And Boom was amazing to me. He was always my favorite hockey radio host, and he never let me down. And, you know, those games on the West Coast are late. I mean, he'd come on the air. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. And he was just a great guy, very generous, asked for nothing, gave everything. I don't know what else to say. Rest in peace to a wonderful man.
That's well said. That's well said, Josh. And, of course, Roswell Park Cancer Institute down there in the Western New York area continues to do so many great things as well. Never lose sight of that. Josh, thank you very much for the kind words about Boomer and for all that you've given. We appreciate this. Until the next time, my friend, thanks for dropping by.
All the best, guys. Thanks for having me on, Scott. Love you. I'll talk to you soon.